Hello, Leo. Welcome to Metamorphosis, your 2021 autumn reading from Planet Waves. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, your astrologer for the next half hour or so, or who knows, maybe all 6 hours of these recordings. Welcome. I'm here with some ideas and information about your astrology based on your solar chart. So this works for Leo rising and Leo sun. If you're a Leo sun, you may have a different rising sign than Leo. But once you get used to the solar chart system, you see how incredible it is. And for those who were fans of Linda Goodman, in case you're wondering how she knew so much about your sun sign, it's because she knew how to work the solar chart. And that's what this is. This is the solar chart for Leo. And it's set up for right about now. It is, there's one little thing missing here that I'm going to add in that I'll come to, and that is the Venus retrograde. All right, so here we are. And I want to start with the reason why the current astrology has potentially so much impact on you. And that is because much of what's happening now, and much of what has been happening since 2020, is in Aquarius. And because you are Leo of some form or fashion, anyone at all, that puts Aquarius in your seventh place. And so, as you may know from my previous writing, I consider the opposite signs to be part of the same thing. So Leo and Aquarius are working as one system, one axis of the zodiac. They're both members of what's called the fixed cross, and so they're two fixed signs, and that means you have a lot of fixed energy in your chart, which can serve you quite well on a planet where we here on planet Quicksand, it's nice to have fixed energy in your chart, and you've got plenty. But what you also have are transits happening to your seventh house. So, house 1 there, that's you. House 7 there, and you have big transits. Big transits have been happening. Big transits have been happening since March of 2020, a year and a half ago, when Saturn entered, and then Saturn went back into Sag, and then into Capricorn, and then late in 2020, Jupiter and Saturn entered your opposite sign, Aquarius, at the same time. This is a big deal, and it's not the kind of thing that happens even once in every 10 lifetimes to have a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, right? It's been very rare that they've taken place in Aquarius. And so this has meant big changes in your world, big changes in your relationships, big changes in how you orient on people. And the overarching theme of this whole series of readings is where the private realm and the public realm intersect or collide. We are seeing a lot of what used to be called nanny state stuff of very large institutions and governments getting down to the meekest details of our lives, including who we can associate with at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and whether we're allowed to eat in a restaurant in a certain city. I never honestly thought I would live the day to see this kind of absurdity or private intervention in our lives. But we are here, and the missing piece in the conversation, the public conversation, and even the private conversation, are all the ways in which the most intimate inner territory of our lives has been impacted by these massive globalist movements. In the 1970s, this was a topic of conversation, and somewhere Adrienne Rich, one of my favorite authors and essayists and poets, wrote, "There's no private life that's not in some way determined by some larger public life." And we are seeing this, and we're seeing it big time. And the reason this is so particularly important for you is that the way the Leo is oriented, you have Aquarius pointing into one of the most intimate houses in the chart. So that's the 7th house. So the subject area of the 7th house is partnerships. It's people that you work with, and it's people who you marry and you form relationships with, and includes relationships where there may be some deep enmity in the relationship, but it's personal, it's private. It's a lot of one-on-one stuff going on in the 7th. But the punchline for Leo is that you have the sign of groups, Aquarius, on the 7th house, and so there is normally an interaction between your private relationships and some larger public life. So that could mean, for example, that you're likely to meet people that you encounter. You're likely to meet one-on-one partners in group situations. So you be creative, and how do you mix the one-on-one part of the 7th with the group part of Aquarius? So the one-on-one is like, okay, meeting important partners, but more likely to happen in a group situation than for example, encountering someone like walking down the street, or you're introduced to someone. So group environments are where your most private affairs are commingled. And additionally, group values can have a large influence on your private life. And it's very important to bear this in mind and to protect yourself from this. And so it may seem, even though you're like a direct eyewitness looking right at everything, it may seem more, in a sense, intuitive to you that your friends decide who you're going to be with, or that you would be less likely to have a partner who your friends didn't approve of. Now, anyone who wants to submit themselves to that kind of tyranny is welcome to do so. It's not my approach, but the problem with the way the society is going right now is there's a lot of people thinking that there has to be some form of a referendum before you do anything, and the problem with the referendum is nobody actually got to vote. There's this collectivism going on, but nobody actually knows who is in the collective. They just keep talking about it on CNN and MSNBC like we're all supposed to just know what they mean. And so my caution to you is that you are someone who aspires to be an individual. That's a key thing for Leo. You're also often in a position of leadership, but right now you are heavily subject to the influences of people outside of yourself. So be mindful of this. And let's move on. The change that's happened in over the past approximately 18 months is that very large planets have showed up in your 7th house, and there's going to be several possible effects of that. One of which is a clearing effect. Your 7th being so the clearing effect is an effect of Saturn, and the influence of Saturn through any house is to clear the house out. It is to make room for what is new. It is it's sort of like the demolition team that comes in before the renovation team. It's the removal of the walls and the barriers and the gutting of the place and the floors and all this stuff. And this is one thing that is happening. And this is going to rearrange your personal affairs, personal relationships like marriages and business partnerships. It's also going to rearrange all of your group environments. The group environments are the circles of friends, organizational stuff, potentially work-related matters where there's been a heck of a lot of activity in work-related matters. And where it is likely to constantly seem like somebody wants to do the bidding of your life. And I would suggest that you work with this energy rather than against it. Work with it by being aware of it, and second, you need to stand up to those who would attempt to dictate things that are none of their business. And I would remind you that no matter how good the excuse may be today, no matter how good the excuse may have been yesterday, the excuse may not be so good in a couple of years, and you cannot easily gain back rights of autonomy that you have given up or that you have lost for whatever reason. You can't say, well, that was a good reason back in October or whatever, but now I don't like it for this. Well, you've given away your rights, and the most important of those rights is your right to your bodily autonomy, and second is your right to know the truth about things. And the truth has become a huge casualty of this whole thing. Regarding the group material of Aquarius on the 7th, and everyone's experiencing these transits to Aquarius in some way, and you in a particularly direct way. And what I think a great many people are experiencing is that at least half the population is experiencing being cast out of their group in some way, whether the group is their family, the group is their family, group of friends, the group may be whatever, maybe professional, collegial stuff going on. And so the way this is working for you is the constant, ongoing reminder that you need to hang out with the right people. You cannot hang out with the wrong people. You've got to be with the people whose values you genuinely respect and who genuinely respect your values. This is a little bit tricky in our time of history when it's never totally obvious where I end and you begin, where you end and I begin, and that is one of the most important things that I would encourage you to pay attention to at all times, is that boundary between you and the rest of the world. And this includes, anyone you may be responsible for, such as your children. Where is the boundary between your children and the rest of the world? Exactly, where is it? Okay, so that's the macroscopic movement. The last thing I'll add about movement in Aquarius is that Pluto is coming up into Aquarius. This is going to be a 2-decade-long transit that begins in 2020. I believe it starts to slide in the spring of 2023. It's fully engaged by late 23 or early 24, and then it lasts 20 more years. So for many of us, it's something approaching the rest of our natural lives. Even if someone is 40 today, it's not going to be over until they're in their 60s. We're going to be living with this influence of Pluto and Aquarius for a very long time. And when Pluto is moving through your 7th house, that is one of the biggest transits in all of astrology because it makes the impact of Pluto direct, and it makes it unescapable and unavoidable. And as with Saturn, right? You have a choice whether something is going to run your life or you're going to stand up to that thing and you're going to run your life. Is this thing going to give to you or take away from you? The challenge with Pluto is we're talking about a more intense, slower, longer-lasting energy here that is more difficult to really comprehend. It's easy to understand Saturn. It's hard to understand Pluto because its effect is so subliminal in a way, and often invisible till it shows up in full strength, and you're dealing with this unstoppable force to make sure that you take this Pluto transit as an opportunity to grow, and that you set limits on the threats that people can make, and on their ability to in any way persuade or coerce you into going against your own better judgment. And I get that this is all the rage, and there are still people who are upset with me for saying the same thing I've been saying for the last 25 years. I've been sitting in this chair, or one chair like it, which is that you're responsible for your life and you're responsible for the decisions that you make most of all. So let's go to decisions. Let's talk about decisions. Part of the interaction between the very large and the very personal is manifesting later in the autumn in the triple conjunction of Sun, Mars, and Mercury retrograde in Libra. This takes place it's building, and it is at its most exact between October 8th and 9th. And so there's going to be this major event. Now, the unusual thing about this major event is that it does not involve any slow-moving planets. It involves Mars, the Sun, and Mercury. And we don't usually think of Mars, the Sun, and Mercury being associated with before and after events. Normally, we think of outer planets like Uranus or Pluto or Eris or something like that, even Saturn, being associated with before and after events. But here we have a before and after event that involves three quick movers, the Sun, Mercury, and Mars. And the thing that grants it its saliency and its kind of largesse, even though it's all, more workaday routine type of planets, is the precision of the alignment and the overlapping of the Sun, Mars, and Sun, Mercury cycles. So when the Sun forms a conjunction to an inner planet, you know that it is at a peak moment in that planet's cycle. So, for example, Mars conjunct the Sun is right at the midpoint between two Mars retrogrades. Mercury retrograde conjunct the Sun is right at the midpoint of Mercury retrograde. So by October 8th, we know that we have half of Mercury retrograde behind us and half of it left in front of us. But when they all line up together, we know that we're dealing with a kind of a meta cycle. And notably, it takes place in Libra, which is about decisions, and your third house, house number 3, which is about your cognitive process. This is all about cognitive process. And you'd rather be a laid back person. You'd rather that ideas be beautiful than strictly logical. Even if there is strict logic, there must be an element of beauty in the logic, right? One of the ways you detect whether something is true or not is it beautiful. Now, you can't always do that. I mean, the World Trade Center was attacked on a beautiful day, Libra rising, and fell down elegantly, and it all worked perfectly, but it wasn't beautiful. But for you, there's an aesthetic quality to your ideas. It's one of the most important things about Leo. And you want communication that is respectful and elegant and dignified. Okay, all good. Now we bring Mars into the equation. Well, this requires a certain amount of vehemence. Mars is a vociferous planet. Mars is the god of war. I mean, Mars is the cock and balls of the zodiac. Mars puts in the pump and the thrust and the let's get it done and where's my machete and that's maybe a bit much for you. Mercury retrograde is an interesting thing to put into Leo, but it evokes the past. It evokes a review. It evokes a recollection of something. It is a memory of something. It is a reminder of something in the past. And when you put the three together, this to me looks like the need to take urgent action on something that you recognized in the past. So any transit comes with a lot of decisions, right? You have to make a lot of choices with a transit. So the transit of Saturn through Aquarius, for example, is who do I want to be with? Who do I belong with? What's the right thing here? Who are the right people? What's the right group? that's a lot of questions and a lot of decisions. Every transit has that. In fact, it would be cool to write an article called Questions of Transits. If I write that, when you see it, it's dedicated to you. This looks like a question, a very big question. And the meta question of the question is, does this make sense? Does this all hold up? Do both sides of this equation balance out? Is everything biased one way when it really should be biased the other way? Does the weight of the evidence all seem to go one way, but when I actually ask the question, when I actually peel this back, when I actually get in there and look at the guts of the issue, well, that's going to help you to do that. So I'm not sure what this is about, right? It could be anything, right? There's no point attempting to predict it. But I will say this, that your ability to be inwardly referential is crucial. And by that, I mean that we live in a time of a lot of outer projection of our inner being. We live in the time of gramming your food. That is to say, people can't enjoy a meal without first posting it to Instagram. This is total projection. This is not knowing when I end and you begin, not knowing when you end and when I begin. And we have been through many long phases when the primary message of the digital realm is that now suddenly your social security number, bank account numbers, and personal data, which used to be absolutely sacrosanct and private, were now subject to hacking. I mean, there's databases you can find out how many times your social security number has been hacked, or you can type in your passwords and your password email combinations and see how many times they've been hacked. And it's a lot of times. And what this has done is it has dragged us out of ourselves and made us feel like there is no inner reality. And that is an effect of digital. It's an effect of electrical. It's an effect of all broadcast media. It's an effect of all mass media where people are listening together. Listening together. That's what mass media is. And so for about 100 years, this shit's been going on, and we have basically been tribalized. And what I would highly recommend for you is to internalize your reality as much as possible. One of the best ways to internalize your reality is to read, and to read in such a way that is, first of all, from paper books, and second, where you're taking full ownership and possession of what you read. Reading on the internet is a little like eating popcorn that disappears in your mouth, and I say that with somewhat tragic recognition that most of my work is read on the internet, but I have my ways of getting through to you. But for the most part, reading on the internet's like eating instantaneously dissolving popcorn. And it's not the form of reading that's more like making a chart like this where you say, oh, what's the implication of that? What's that relationship there? What's that? What does that mean in the context of that, in the context of that? Right. That's real reading. Any of these books that I've read are heavily underlined and annotated, and that's because for me, reading means changing even as I read. Reading means a confrontation with myself, a confrontation with the human condition, a confrontation with the ideas or viewpoint of the author. A lot of ways to read, and I'm suggesting that you do the internal, take total ownership of what you read. And this will inform you about the things you're reading about, but mostly what I'm suggesting that it's going to do is put you into contact with your inner being. And this needs to be done, it needs to be practiced on a daily basis, lest you be completely disoriented from your inner reality. And so the beauty of this triple conjunction of personal planets, this triple conjunction of personal planets in a very personal and private house in your chart is a reminder of how much of your interior space that you need to claim and make your own. One of the most natural states of mind of Leo is to be cooperative. Leo is not inherently a rebel. The way I would demonstrate from the standpoint of the solar chart, which is just the arrangement of how all the other signs influence Leo, right? That's all really the solar chart is. It's a total map of Leo, and in this total map of Leo, we have a Capricorn on the 6th house where you work. That's a Saturn-ruled sign, and that's about really wanting to make sure that you are an effective part of whatever you're being involved with. And then Aquarius on the 7th, that's cooperative and also subject to a measure of conformity. And to have Taurus on the 10th, the house of government, is also to want to be proper in your dealings with authority, right? So that you have a chart that's very well placed for cooperating with authority. The problem is when authority is unrighteous, you're not necessarily a natural born rebel, though we all have it in us, and you may have figured out how to be a natural born rebel. But right now you've got a real gift that will be very helpful to you. And that is Uranus moving through the 10th house. The 10th house is the ultimate house of like cooperation, following orders, instructions, working with power instead of against power, and all of that. And having Taurus there means you want to wear the right thing the right day. You show up to things properly dressed, and you know how to present yourself and speak to people, and all this. Okay. But now you've got Uranus here. And the placement of Uranus here is bringing out the rebel in you. And I don't really just mean rebel. I mean actual revolutionary. That you're not willing to take too much shit right now. And the thing about that is that it may seem a little unusual to you that you are so emphatic about wanting to challenge authority. And this has been going on for a while. This has been going on since 2018, when Uranus made it into Taurus for the first time, and in 80 years, approximately 78 years or something. And now it's coming in handy because you are under all of this pressure to do what other people say, but fortunately, you have the moxie to not do what other people say, to do what you say, to do the right thing for yourself, and quite possibly for many other people. There's one other thought that I think is worth elaborating on, and that is that. In these times when we are being told that we have to do everything for everyone else and behave ourselves and all of this, there is a grievous loss of the importance of personal autonomy, and this is it's being made out to sound on a regular basis that personal autonomy somehow violates the community or violates the group, and anyone who's interested in their own independence is somehow a antisocial person. But this is pure propaganda. The very nature of our society is that we're American society, and then many that have followed in our footsteps since the revolution have been. The nature of our society is about respect for the individual and for individual private rights. That we're in the United States and most other countries, we're not supposed to be subjects of the crown. We are sovereign citizens of the republic in which we live. And among the many ways you have this being emphasized is, the Aquarius stuff is saying, well, no group is a group without individuals. A group is not it's not the Borg. The group is not a bunch of zombies and robots doing what they're told. A group is a bunch of people who've got their own viewpoint, who work it out among each other. In the ninth house of astrology, that is one's spiritual path described, characterized, one's cosmology, one's relationship to the higher power, to source, to God, goddess, or the universe. You have Aries there. Your religion is being yourself. Your whole concept of God is the thing that you personally relate to. You're not the kind of person who wants to like be in a cult where they say, we all believe this, and now we're going to all do this, and now we're all going to dress this one way, and now we're all going to read this same book at the same time and all this. No. You're kind of the ultimate Protestant, I guess. It's not really true. There needs to be a better word for this. But the concept of Protestantism is that each person has their own direct relationship to whatever, higher power, the inner light, Jesus, Mary, the universe, great attractor, whatever it might be. Remember that. Your religion is self-actualization. Your idea of spiritual growth is growth as a human being. Aries on the ninth. Aries on the ninth. Could start the whole Leo chapter with that. It's not just that you're ruled by the sun and the sun's in the middle of everything. And you now have Chiron, among other important points, moving through your ninth, which is fully, genuinely emphasizing the personal growth and self-actualization angle of your life path, and how your healing is your religion. Your growth is your religion. Your idea of God is the entity that helps you grow. Your idea of spiritual is being genuine and sincere. Chiron is making that inescapable, unavoidable, and gloriously accessible and available to you right now. And so you're in a fine position to be you and to stand up to any resistance that the world is dishing out, or conditions that say, nah, it's time to cash in your truth. No, it's not time. It's not time. It is time for you to live and be and grow and become, and to follow that irresistible, incredible call of self-actualization. All right. That is what I have to say. Bye for now.